Hey everybody, here's a garden update. It is July in Texas and it's very sunny, very hot. So let's see how the garden is doing. So with the raised beds over here, we have ginger growing. Ginger loves the heat, seems to be growing. Of course here, I kind of have a bit of a mishmash there. It was supposed to be some kohlrabi, which I guess is growing. Carrots behind it, and then runner beans behind it. And boy, those runner beans seem to be taking a beating on the Texas heat here. They seem to be just a little bit slow. Um, One of the things that is kind of interesting, and here's the olive tree that I've had for a couple of years. Transplanted it to a bigger container. Right behind it here, I had some extra ginger and turmeric, and I said, what the hell, let me just throw it in here. And so I threw it right underneath the mulch between these raised beds. And, lo and behold, it just pops up and grows. And, there's not even a water irrigation watering it other than maybe runoff from the beds. But isn't it funny that the whole back to Eden garden style with the wood chips really does work? You throw stuff under the wood chips and off it goes. I mean, it's kind of funny that the stuff that you don't maintain grows better than the stuff that has the best dirt and the care and all that. Very strange. Uh, Raised beds here. We have more Swiss chard that's been growing very well. Swiss chard seems to love that heat. So we picked that yesterday and we're eating some of it. It was really good. Behind it is some more runner beans, which just seem to be taking a beating with this heat. It's really crazy. I guess beans are more heat sensitive, especially right now with no rain and high temperatures. Marigold's doing good in these raised beds to bring the bees and pollinators. But I don't know how this got in here, but in this dirt you'll notice that there's one little tomato plant that's grown up. It's an opportunistic tomato, so I figure, well, let them grow. If it has the strength to grow, and I didn't plant it as a plant, then let it do its thing. We'll get tomatoes out of that. Now for the tomatoes that we intentionally planted, they've been doing very well this year, I gotta say. We've got a different variety of determinate and indeterminate. Here, this one are more determinate, so you'll notice that they got a certain height. They're producing the tomatoes, and then they're dying back. So these are probably going to be picked here real soon. We've been picking some tomatoes off of that. In front are peppers, which I think are getting a bit shaded out, but maybe that's okay with this heat. They could use a little shade. They look a little peaked here. Make sure they're getting their nutrients. I might have to come out here and give it a little nutrients. I might have to also stake it up a little bit. He's getting kind of tall and spindly. Some of these tomatoes I need to tie up a little bit better too. They're growing a little bit higher. But like I say, they're determinate, so they probably are about finished. But anyways, different types of tomatoes here that I've been picking off, and you'll see that I have to lift this a little bit as I get through. Been picking the tomatoes, and this one's about done for. But I have new tomatoes I'll replace them with. It's a little, see, right here is a little that not enough calcium in there, so I'll have to make sure it's getting the nutrients when it gets that that bad end that the tomatoes get. So we'll just throw that and we'll eat that. There's some peppers here behind this marigold that's taken off. These very decorative little peppers. I like those. Behind is beans, which been really kind of disappointed in the beans here. I guess it's maybe too hot as I kind of move my way back. These beans are runner beans, and of course they are running. They're running up the trellis, and they're making the flowers. I've had tons of flowers, but no beans. So not really too sure what's going on. I mean, it's kind of healthy and green, but funny enough, no beans. Now what is kind of coming up here, if you'll notice, is from last year. I had the Brazilian spinach, and it is growing opportunistically here from some of the seeds that must have fell. So you know what, I'll just let it grow. I'll let it do its thing, and maybe I'll trellis it up. In the back here, I was starting to grow these melons, and the plants have been very small on the small end, and I think they're even trying to trellis up into the main garden here and on this marigold here. Let me pull him off. I See if we can't get them off the marigold and off the tomatoes. Okay, maybe I'll let them go here in this empty space. Anyways, I could trellis them up, but then I'd have to support melon on a nylon twine. But they've been small on behind here, and I think it's because they get shaded up by the tomatoes and the beans. You can see that the beans create quite shade back here. I just wish I had beans. Now looking at the back, the tomatoes on this side are more of the cherry variety, and I've been definitely pulling a lot of them off. You can see the clusters of cherry tomatoes that are growing. I got yellow ping pong and yellow pear, and these are of course indeterminate, and I'll just need to keep trellising this up here and supporting it because he'll keep giving us tomatoes, and that's kind of why I put them here by the trellis, because they can keep going. But they've been very good. They've been doing good in the heat. Now in general though, tomatoes, you know, when it's over 90 degrees or so, they stop doing flowers because they go kind of dormant, but these cherries are still doing well. So some lessons learned here too is, if you notice, I have straw here to kind of keep in the moisture, but if you pull away the straw, the ground underneath is still kind of drying out, and I think that is because it's just too hot and the straw's not enough compared to the wood chips, which are heavier. So I think the lesson learned is, as I pull plants off, I'll replace the straw with some real wood chips, just like it is around here, and make it a raised back to Eden garden, because theoretically, technically, wood chips or mulch on top of the dirt, regardless whether it's a raised bed or in the ground, should still be sufficient, right? It still should be the same, you know, nutrients and breakdown level and all that. So anyways, here is kind of this side, some lessons learned, some things we'll do differently, and that's what gardening's about, is learning and doing things differently. And in Texas, it's how do you beat the heat in the summer and keep plants going. So anyways, that's this little video. Let's look at the rest of the garden on another video.